Hey everybody, Josh Sigurdson of World Alternative Media here, and welcome to another live WAM news show. We will see how this goes. As per usual, we kind of just wing it and hope for the best, but I guess that's a fun part about live video. And as I mentioned to many of you last time, I have a lung infection, and I'm still going through that, and I'm gonna try my best to stay as stable as possible here. But nonetheless, I'm gonna do my best because obviously we've got work to do. There's stories to tell. There's stuff to talk about. There's stuff to break down. I'm gonna let a few more people tune in before I really get down to it. But I see some people commenting. Arturo Villalobos says a thumbs up. Ryan Wood says, hope you feel better, dude. Thank you. Imelda Andrade says hello to you as well. We'll get right to it. So for those that aren't familiar with the way that we do this here at WAM Live, is we break down stories and we do a live kind of like report, and then we cut it, but we don't go anywhere. We'll still be here. Like, we're not signing out legitimately. It's just so that I could cut it out after and put it up separately as videos, because I don't have a lot of time to be doing 1, 2, 3, 4 videos a day, obviously, for obvious reasons. We do have some 4K videos coming up soon as well, so stay tuned for that. And we got some really big trips around the world coming up as well. Keisha Rhinestone says, you're not the only one with a cough. I know. I got the flu a couple weeks ago, for those that don't know, and it was the 5th time I got sick in 3 months. And I take vitamins, I eat natural food, organic, all that kind of stuff. And I just kept getting sick, I think, from being on airplanes and stuff. And then I get a sore throat from the flu after the flu goes and the fever goes. And then I get a lung infection. And it's been like 2 weeks of a lung infection. Antibiotics aren't working. I just finished them, and now I'm gonna have to do something else about it. I don't know. We'll figure it out. I'll live. It sucks going to Africa with this, and I can't be taking a bunch of antibiotics in Africa. It leaves me prone to diseases and stuff like that. But anyway, I'm gonna get to the stories at hand here because there's a lot to talk about. I'm gonna do my very best, seriously, not to start coughing through all this. It's been a bit difficult to keep it on the down low here. But anyway, there's big news today, so I'm going to start off with that. Again, don't tune out once I sign out of this report. I will still be here, and Super Chats go to the top. And for those interested in tipping in Bitcoin, we really appreciate it. It helps us stay alive as we are being heavily shadow banned here at World Alternative Media. Anyway. Okay, so let's get to the first story here. Let me just load it up on the screen for us to all get into. And we will be off. Let me just set this up here. All right. Again, this is a live show, so we do the best we can. We are in here. Okay, cool. You could see that. All right. I want to bring up this video here. Okay, starting off. Make sure 100% I'm showing you guys what I'm seeing here on the screen. Okay. So anyway, breaking news out of Paris today. It's a tragic video to watch. Look, you guys know how much I care about history. I love seeing the preservation of history. I hate seeing the destruction of history. And of course, today we see this fire out of Paris, where the Notre Dame Cathedral is basically collapsing in on itself after this fire. The spire just fell. It's sad, and there's a lot of people celebrating it, and it's so ridiculous. It doesn't matter what religion you are. It's just dumb to celebrate this kind of stuff. But I wanted to go into something that's very odd about this story, because YouTube has been doing some shady stuff lately, as we all know, regarding algorithm. And one of those things would be the fact that they have been putting in these little factoids below videos, telling people what's fake news or what's not. And it's getting really over the top to the point where there's glitches happening. And we saw that today as this article from BuzzFeed, I know BuzzFeed, but as this article from BuzzFeed says, YouTube flagged the Notre Dame fire as fake news and then started showing people articles about 9/11. The widget showing information about the September 11th attacks appears to have been triggered by a new feature YouTube is testing to provide topical context around videos that might contain misinformation. And as this article goes into, as the Notre Dame Cathedral went up in flames on Monday, YouTube flagged live streams of the incident as fake news and then started showing people articles about the 9/11 attacks. The cause of the fire was not immediately known, but it broke out as the 12th century cathedral was undergoing a multi-million-dollar renovation project. Police in Paris also said no deaths were reported on site. And you see a screenshot, for example, from France 24 showing September 11th attacks. And I've seen this on videos because I've done 9/11 videos before. And it triggers the algo and this kind of stuff happens. Several news outlets quickly started live streaming the fire on YouTube. However, underneath several of them was a small gray panel titled September 11th Attacks, which contained a snippet from an Encyclopedia Britannica article about 9/11. The feature is part of a larger rollout of tools and disclaimers to prevent users from consuming misinformation on the platform. More images of it, for example, there. So ridiculous. If a user clicked the gray box, they would be taken to a full article about the American terror attack. BuzzFeed News found at least 3 live streams of the Notre Dame fire from major news outlets with the 9/11 disclaimer. And then the disclaimer was then removed one by one after several minutes. But by then, Twitter users had taken notice. And you can see here Twitter post by a guy named Joshua Benton. Why in the world is YouTube putting information about 9/11 but underneath the Notre Dame live stream? This guy says, I'm so glad we let tech platforms eat the journalism industry. Now I can sit and watch a live stream of Notre Dame burning while YouTube's fake news widget tells me about 9/11 for some reason. And then this guy, YouTube is suggesting viewers read about 9/11 during Notre Dame related streams for some reason. On a few different live streams of Notre Dame on YouTube, the site offers a totally unprompted, unrelated description of the September 11th attacks, this person says. It's unclear how the Notre Dame live stream triggered the panel, but a spokesperson for YouTube said the information panels with links to third-party sources like Encyclopedia Britannica and Wikipedia are activated by an algorithm. These panels are triggered algorithmically, and our systems sometimes make the wrong call, the spokesperson added. We are disabling these panels for live streams related to the fire. According to a link inside the disclaimer, the information panel is a feature that is currently only available to users in the United States and South Korea. The help page adds that the panel will appear alongside videos related to the topic, regardless of opinions or perspectives in the footage. The moderation of YouTube live streams has been a problem for the platform. Last week, during a congressional hearing on white nationalism and social media, YouTube's moderators had disabled comments on live streams of the hearing because the comments section became so racist. One stream of the hearing by Swedish white nationalists was even able to be monetized, with commenters using the super chat feature to donate money to the channel as it streams. So there's a bit more to this, though. I mean, consider the fact that it's quite obvious at this point that there's a lot of conditioning happening. I'm not going to point fingers regarding the Notre Dame Cathedral. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of people celebrating. It's sick, and it's wrong to celebrate that kind of stuff. I don't celebrate any religious or irreligious iconic sites being burned to the ground. It's ridiculous. It's history, and it's important. And history gives us the insight into what we need to know for the future going forward. But I mean, with that said, there's conditioning. Like a lot of people are pushed into that divide and conquer perspective of false flag. Everything is either a false flag or everything's not a false flag, or it has to be black or white. And then you have people fighting over it with each other, which is really sad. So I think that is a huge problem that we see going forward. But again, with the YouTube algorithms kicking in, you see this a lot lately. It's like the news, which has absolutely no moral high ground, seriously, with the amount of fake nonsense they're pumping out on a regular basis, then sending us to Wikipedia. Like, what is the media historically used against people who have their own opinions? What, do you look that up on Wikipedia? What do you find that fake news on Wikipedia? You believe that? Well, now, like, the mainstream media is just like pumping Wikipedia and stuff into our heads, and government sponsored or funded encyclopedias. And Wikipedia isn't that easy to edit anymore. They've completely taken that over completely, and now it's completely controlled. You see that in so many topics when you look up certain issues that they don't even mention certain words that are heavily related to a certain topic or subject matter, which they don't want you to look into deeper. But with that said, you do videos, and YouTube is glitching out with the whole fake news thing so much that it's putting up 9/11 related stuff on the Notre Dame Cathedral fire. Does anyone else find this completely ridiculous? I do. I think it's gone to the point of no return. YouTube is shooting themselves in the foot. They're destroying creators, shadow banning everyone, making things as impossible for people to work as possible, which is why we have a subscribe to our page, by the way, for not safe for YouTube content that you guys can check in the link below. But again, when they unroll this kind of stuff, it's a slippery slope, and you end up having not just the misinformation, but keep in mind the mainstream media is the same one that's been pushing the Mueller probe, the same one that has been pushing anti-Russia rhetoric to the point where people have been supporting war, a nuclear war with Russia for years, as well as pushing nonsense with North Korea. And then at the same time, pushing divide and conquer, clashing us against each other so we're distracted from the real enemies, the state, the organized crime rackets, the banks, etc. And then meanwhile, they prosecute or persecute someone like Julian Assange, who has never been proven wrong in anything that he has released, classified or declassified on WikiLeaks. So why does anyone trust this entity anymore? And why do people put up with this? And even the mainstream media is looking at that and going like, that's kind of weird. I mean, when the mainstream media themselves are like, maybe our own tactics of propagandizing people and propagating people and indoctrinating people is too over the top that even we can't wrap our heads around it. It tells us a lot about the era we're living in and what we're heading into if we're not very, very careful about what we do next. This is getting so ridiculous, guys. So anyway, we will continue focusing on or looking into this Notre Dame fire. We don't know what's going on yet. There's no information. It's really sad. I hate to see, when I saw the spire go, I mean, think of it took them 100 years to build the place. It's it's like 900 years old. It's so sad to watch one of these buildings collapse. But anyway, we are on DTube and STEEMIT and BitTube and BitChute and Minds and everything you can imagine. We're looking at DLive and everything. So you can join us on a lot of other platforms. YouTube's going to demonetize, censor, shadow ban, make sure most of you don't see these videos. And then, of course, they're going to try and give you terrible, unreliable Wikipedia articles and shove them in your face and tell you if you question anything, you are somehow a denier and throw those connotations at you. And I think we need to resist that at all freaking costs. Anyway, thanks for watching, everyone. Until next time, this is Josh Sigurdson signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change. All right, so I'm still here. Again, when I close out these reports, I'm still here. I'm just recording them live and then cutting them out after, so stay around. Anyway, John Andrews sent a $1 super chat. Thank you, John. I really appreciate that. It goes a long way. It helps a lot. I see Tim Pashot commenting, TheYTube. Absolutely. By the way, make sure to check out his latest videos here at WAM. He's our latest contributor, and he's doing an excellent job. And we'll have a lot more coming out real soon from him, especially while I'm in Africa and I won't be able to post anything. But anyway, I'm going to get to the next thing here. Get that ready to go. I'm looking at what I made the thumbnail for this video, and I should probably follow that as closely as possible. Again, I have a lung infection, so excuse me if I'm coughing off and on. I am really having a hard time breathing today. It doesn't help. I'm in Las Vegas, so it's dusty. Anyway. Okay, I think this should be an interesting article to go into. I'm not prepared at all for it, but let's see how it goes. Again, don't go anywhere. When I sign off from this report, I'll still be here, and super chats go to the top, and they help a lot. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it. Let's get into this. As this article out of Tsarism.com says, that's an interesting name for a website, but we looked into it. It's a real story. Russia says new world order being formed. And as the article goes into, Russia Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov declared today that the Western liberal model of society is dying and a new world order is taking its place. Lavrov made the comments at his annual meeting with students and professors at the Foreign Ministry's Diplomatic Academy, reported Russian state news agency TASS. The Western liberal model of development, which particularly stipulates a partial loss of national sovereignty, this is what our Western colleagues aimed at when they invented what they call globalization, is losing its attractiveness and is no more viewed as a perfect model for all. Moreover, many people in the very Western countries are skeptical about it, Lavrov said. According to him, global development is guided by process aimed at boosting multipolarity and what we call a polycentric world order. Tensions flare up in the United States. Okay. Clearly, and it says, and I quote, clearly multipolarity and the emergence of new centers of power in every way requires efforts to maintain global stability and search for a balance of interests and compromises, so diplomacy should play a leading role here. Lavrov went on to say, particularly because there are a lot of issues that require generally accepted solutions. These include regional conflicts, international terrorism, food security, and environmental protection. This is why we believe that only diplomacy can help make agreements and reach sustainable decisions that will be accepted by all. The U.S. and its allies, and I quote, the U.S. and its allies are trying to impose their approaches on others, Lavrov noted. They are guided by a clear desire to preserve their centuries-long dominance in global affairs, although from the economic and financial standpoint, the U.S. alone or with its allies can no longer resolve all global economic political issues, he said. In order to preserve the dominance or their dominance and recover their indisputable authority, they use blackmail and pressure. They don't hesitate to blatantly interfere in the affairs of sovereign states. So I do want to mention, like as Vladimir Putin has mentioned before, and look, I don't like any organized crime rackets. I don't like government. I don't like the fact that they're clashing against each other for who controls the populace more and uses them as pawns to sacrifice for the king and the queen, as always. But it's always about what benefits them. But as Putin has mentioned before, it's basically men in black. No president has any power, and he's right in saying that. I don't know how it exactly works in Russia, and I'm not going to speculate. But with that said, I do know that we are watching a major shift happening. Russia is increasing their gold supply and their gold mining capabilities insanely. China is talking about gold. China is unveiling a world order scenario right now, and they talk about national sovereignty, and personally, I look at nationalism as a smaller version of globalism. It's literally the same thing, but in a smaller case, and it's cancer that grows, and it'll always grow. Individual sovereignty is the only kind of sovereignty, really. It comes down to individuals. Otherwise, it's collectivism. Otherwise, it's communist mantra. Otherwise, it's fascist mantra. It's all part of that collectivist paradigm, and it all leads to the same thing. But with that said, it is clear that there is a push as the world reserve currency collapses under its incredibly unsustainable, legs, its structure. It's meant to fail. We will see a rise of a new form of globalism that comes from places like China, Russia, India, and Australia, and Philippines, and all these. There's a huge coalition happening. It's hard to really put your finger on what's going to happen next, but I know China and India are set to surpass the United States in the near future. As the world reserve currency collapses, it will be replaced, at least temporarily, though it will be a domino effect, and we will see much of the system collapse completely. But with that said, I do believe that China will prevail for a short period of time, and they've got their centrally planned cashless society, their technocratic superstate, which we could go back to the early 1970s with Henry Kissinger meeting with Mao Zedong, leading up to the creation of the Trilateral Commission in the late 70s under Zbigniew Brzezinski, and the creation of, or creating or propping up China as a major superstate, which they wanted to empower with true technocratic superpowers, basically. It's like a guinea pig test ground. And we've seen how that's turned into social credit. We've seen how that's turned into complete surveillance states. And we've seen how that will affect all of us eventually in the long term. And it's not good for any of us. We are in a lot of trouble if this continues to unroll and we allow it. That's a whole thing about centralization, central banking, the government, organized crime rackets, and utilizing these tools to override our individual liberties and make us dependent and slaves. Because the more dependent we are, the more the more enslaved we get. So that's why I think from a free market level, it's very important that we as individuals break free from that. And while they are using convenience against us, we need to use convenience against them. I mean, look at sustainability. As far as it goes with efficiency, the government is very inefficient. They like to think they're good at enslaving us, but most of it comes down to us agreeing to be enslaved or bending our knee and just allowing us to be enslaved because we feel like there's nothing we can do about it. But of course, there's a lot to do about it. There's a lot we can do to avoid the pressures of centralization, of statism, of the cancer that we call collectivism, enslaving our every decision, stopping us from making any decision. And of course, too many people are like, cattle on a farm, right? They got the grass to eat. They feel like they're free because they got the grass to eat every now and then their shepherd comes and pulls a fence out a bit further so they have a bit more room to roam around, but they're eating their grass, they feel real good, they have a smile on their face, and then they're led off to the slaughter with the smile on their face because they think everything's fine, and yeah, there's major little issues every now and then, and my friends keep disappearing and getting butchered, but I mean, I'm free at the moment, so what does that matter? It does matter. It matters a lot. Individuals need to stand up for themselves. The whole basis of freedom itself is self-responsibility. So as long as we sit back and allow this to continue to happen, then we will beget the slavery, and we will unfortunately deserve it as individuals, but not as collective. We do not have right over other people. We do not have a say over other people. We should not have a say over other people. We should be responsible for ourselves, and we can form voluntary private contract governance alliances based on individual free will, and we can make decisions that way. But as far as this goes, there's a new world order forming, which we are called crazy for talking about for a long time. And then at a nationalistic level, what difference is it really other than a smaller version of the same thing? The United States, you think that a global government can't control you because it's a giant global government, but then somehow you know the United States, 50 states can be controlled by a few individuals because you have representatives, like 20,000 people elect one representative, and you think they speak for you. It's 51% controlling the 49%, and of that 51%, only maybe 0.01% of them are represented, and those are the bureaucrats in office. It's all nonsense, and the government doesn't do anything they don't personally benefit from, and they're leading you to the slaughter. That's the entire point. That is what they're doing, and you're falling into it. It's a religion of statism, and you look at it like a religion. You get glassy-eyed with the idea of statism and collectivism, of being comfortable in your slumber, of being dependent, of having someone, a strong man, do things for you. You sit back and you go, yeah, well, I'm going to let these guys figure it out. You know, the problems they all created in the first place, they'll solve those problems by doing the same things they did in the first place. Regulations, taxation, legislation, throwing people in cages, murdering millions of people, etc. That's what government does. It's a religion. It's the flag is a cross. The government buildings are the churches. The national anthem is, of course, the hymns. You have the preachers, which are basically just the politicians. You have the televangelists, which is the mainstream media, and the school system and the Sunday schools and school systems. It's all propagated, and you have the Crusades, or the military, industrial complex, etc. I mean, this is everything that factors into the definition of a religion. But it's a very coercive religion, and it has it wants you to worship it. It's just a shadow on the wall, but it wants you to worship it. But it doesn't give you anything. It only takes things away from you. You don't get freedom from government. Government can only take the freedom away from you. So we need to understand this. While Russia talks about, a new world order forming, and they want to create their own new world order, and China's creating their own new world order, and the United States has a new world order, and they are trying to keep it upright, but it's falling and cracking at the seams. You can't just go and well, maybe this one will be better. It's the same thing we've done going back to ancient Greece for thousands of years. Maybe this puppet will help. Maybe we'll be able to change things, change we can believe in. He's anti-establishment, right? And then what happens? You end up with a new puppet. You end up with a new leader that's going to extort you, steal your money, make your life more difficult, restrict your free will, and kill millions of people, and centralize currencies and make things absolutely incredibly difficult for you in order to thrive on the free market, in order to trade, in order to make money for your family, etc. They are destroying you as an individual, and so many of you are looking at government as the solution to the very thing that they created in the first place. So again, it's an incremental frog boil to true collectivism, and it will always, always grow, and cancer always grows, and you get rid of 95% of a tumor, and that 5% grows. Why not get rid of the whole tumor? Why not create a voluntary system? Why not be private, have a private contract, and decide things for yourself? Why do you need to extort your neighbor because you think your ideas are better than theirs? It doesn't make sense. So regardless of the new world order, what about the national order? What about this order of humanity where you have a collective paradigm that's gone on for thousands of years and has never worked and has only gotten worse over time, extorting you and forcing you to the slaughter, and making everything worse, and you're making your life as difficult as possible. Anyway, I could go on all day. I ramble about this all the time. We will continue to report on all this stuff. It's just there's so much doublespeak. People fall from one side or the other, like it's so black and white, and they must choose a side. Why not choose freedom? Why not choose yourself? Why not choose your family? Why not choose your ability to live freely as humanity is meant to live? Anyway, until next time, this is Josh Sigurdson signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change. All right, guys. Brian Callahan says, where is your old buddy? John is awesome. Yeah, he's in Canada right now. We'll be doing some more videos soon. I just had a lung infection. He's been busy. I've been busy. I'm working on an event. I'm working on more than one event. I'm working on several things at the same time. And I'm also working on getting to Africa very shortly. So it's been a bit of an issue. John Andrews says, all I can do with no income. I really appreciate the $1 super chat. A $1 super chat is someone going out of their way to give $1 when they don't need to, and I really appreciate it, and it does make a difference. $1 makes a difference, trust me. And with gas prices skyrocketing right now in Las Vegas and in Canada due to the carbon tax, it's very, very, $1, it gives me $1 of gas that helps me get around and do things, so I really appreciate it. Alias says, volunteers here. Thank you, Josh. Good to see you, Elias. I guess I think you're saying that you weren't able to get to the Red Pill Expo this year. Either way, hope to see you soon. You got great videos. Everyone should check him out and subscribe to his channel. Let's see. I'm going to get to another article here. Again, I have a lung infection, so excuse me if I'm a little off. It's been very difficult to breathe the last couple days. Keisha Rhinestone says, I wish you luck on your trip to Mauritania. Thank you. I'm going to need all the luck I can get on that. But, I met someone the other day who was in the Peace Corps, who was in Mauritania, and she was telling me that it was one of the nicest places she'd ever been. So, I don't know. It's kind of scary to me because it's a place I've never been, and it's a very strange place compared to what I'm used to. But I'm sure I'll be fine. I hope. All right. We got more stories to report on. For those just tuning in, we report the stories live, then we cut it, and then we'll still be here. Don't go anywhere. We're just taking it, or we like to cut out the reports after the live stream and put them up independently. Rainy Steps gave $2.79 Canadian dollars. Thank you very much. It says here, mister. Thank you. I really appreciate it. All the super chats make a really big difference. Seriously. They've been giving us a really hard time on YouTube lately. There's also Bitcoin, and we do, if I can load this up quickly, for those interested in subscriber-only content, we do have a Subscribe Star page that allows us to do not safe for YouTube content straight to you for you to see. It's linked below because YouTube isn't allowing us to talk about certain things, and they'll take down our videos, and it's getting bad. Anyway. Let's see. There's a few things I want to talk about. Okay. I loaded up like 15 to 20 stories last night to talk about today and a couple today. And there's so many. I don't know what I was thinking. I got to choose between like 40 stories here. There's so many on the screen here. I think we'll try this one. Okay. Yeah. This one is kind of funny. Annoying, but funny. Let's get right to it. Okay, as this Zero Hedge article says, Trump admits it's the Fed's job to push stocks higher. We'll get into this in a moment, but let's look at the article itself. It says, when President Trump demanded earlier this month that the Fed should cut interest rates to undo some of the damage it has done to the economy with its pernicious rate hikes, we pointed out the obvious dissonance between advocating for rate cuts while insisting that the economy is the strongest it has ever been. And it shows a Zero Hedge tweet here. Trump says Fed should drop rates, stop quantitative tightening because economy is so strong. But the incongruity it disappears when one considers that the central bank's dual mandate simply masks its true purpose: to levitate asset prices and ensure that wealthy Americans get richer, while at least for now averting an all-out pension fund crisis. Which, by the way, pensions are in a massive shortfall. I'm looking at, I think it was a $400 trillion shortfall worldwide by the year 2050, which is basically more than 4 times the world's GDP. It's absolutely unsustainable. Anyway, though the central bank's third mandate is rarely, if ever, directly acknowledged, President Trump violated this convention in a tweet on Sunday when he declared that the central bank, had it done its job properly, would have sent the Dow another 5,000 to 10,000 points higher, and that GDP growth would have been well over 4%. And it shows his tweet here. If the Fed had done its job properly, which it has not, the stock market would have been up 5,000 to 10,000 additional points, and GDP would have been well over 4% instead of 3% with almost no inflation. Quantitative tightening was a killer, should have done the exact opposite. In essence, this is the president admitting that the Fed's only job is to push stocks higher. Damn the deteriorating fundamentals that leave valuations increasingly divorced from reality. And it shows this Mark B. Spiegel post. According to Donald Trump, the Fed's job is now officially blowing even bigger stock market bubbles. Of course, as many have pointed out, Trump's conversion to Fed interventionism is relatively recent development, and it shows from 2012 this tweet: the Fed should not do QE3. Neither the economy nor the dollar can withstand another round of artificial liquidity. While this tweet will almost certainly elicit howls from economists warning about the damage Trump is doing to the Fed precious credibility, or whatever is left of it, we think it's refreshing to finally hear the most powerful man in the free world speak openly about its most powerful central bank. Yeah, okay, a little bit of op-ed in there. But isn't this interesting, though? Because, of course, people, we've talked about this before, people talking about how Donald Trump is attacking the Fed, wants to bring in Stephen Moore. Kudlow is talking about Herman Cain. I don't think Herman Cain is going to end up actually in the Fed, but nonetheless, this idea that it's criticizing the Fed by telling them to drop interest rates 0.5% and push for more quantitative easing. Guys, this isn't attacking the Fed. This is a different kind of centralization, but it's still the same cancer. It's pouring kerosene on fire. It's killing cancer with cancer. It's so ridiculous, guys. We can't stop sitting idly by thinking that Trump is attacking the Fed and trust the plan, sit back, relax, be apathetic when this is happening. Of course, he's a president. Presidents don't really have say over the economy. But to talk about we need to have the Fed pumping up, the economy, we need the Fed pumping up the stock market, like the $0 trading desk on Wall Street where the Fed is pumping the stock market artificially. And, of course, there's so little liquidity. And at the same time, we look at the plunge protection team, which has been propping up a crazy bubble, and the more it puts it off, the worse it's going to be, and it's going to hurt all of us very, very dramatically, more than we've ever seen anything like it in the history of the world. It has to happen eventually, inevitably. All fiat currencies eventually revert to their true value of zero, always have, always will, going back to 1024 AD in China, and the stock market is like 95% terrible, 5% good. The fundamentals are not there. And look at FANG stocks, for example. It's ridiculous. So this is just another example of more centralization propping up a system that's doomed to fail. And when you see this kind of stuff and people say Trump is attacking the Fed, no. If he really came out and said, we need to end the Fed, which is the only option here, he'd have a bullet in his head from the establishment. This is nonsense. Stop falling for it. This is all just distraction. And people are being led into this. People who are Ron Paul supporters are suddenly like, yeah, well, we'll see what happens. Trump is doing what he can. And what are you guys doing? Like, we are losing precious time. One thing we need to do, because there are more solutions than problems, is protect ourselves and protect our purchasing power and stop being slaves to this system. We need to have wealth insurance. We need to look at gold and silver. We need to look at free, decentralized, properly, fundamentally useful cryptocurrency technologies and blockchain infrastructure technology as well. We need to look at multiple issues here that can help save us. But sure, you can make money on the stock market. There's still lots of stuff you could do on the stock market. But with that said, the risk is getting higher and higher. You have the yield curve data, which says a lot about the bond market, for example, on the 10-year Treasury bond. Look at it. The 10-year is inverting with the 3-month. when there's more risk, I mean, look at, I don't know. I know I've been going over this over and over again. I'm having a hard time just putting it into concise points here because it's just, we've gone over it so many times. It's amazing that we just keep seeing this pile up and people sit back idly by, and it's an incremental frog boil to normalize this massive centralization, to normalize this complete control of us, and these legal tender laws, these fiat legal tender laws, which extort us, which push us into servitude to the banking system, debt servitude, right where they want us. If they shove us down a bottomless pit of debt, we are forced to ask for a ladder up from the government and the banking system, pushing us into perfect servitude right where they want us. So as this stuff continues to unfold, We see people continuously bowing down to it. It's so absolutely absurd. And then at the same time, you have this usury that's enforced under you haven't signed the contract. It's a social contract, that the collectivist paradigm enforces on you at birth. And then you're paying off the interest on the debt, which, by the way, is an example of someone who wants to pay off the debt when you're only paying off the interest on the debt. A credit card company would look at that very suspiciously. Of course, if you were to do that, just pay off the interest on the debt. Of course, it brings in a lot of debt for the populace to end up having to be extorted for. It's all crazy. And then we talk about wages and all that. Well, wages, the reason why the wages seem low is because inflation is high. If you look at shadow stats, over 11% inflation if you use the 1980s standard. And that means that the price of living is inflating all the time. Everything is getting more expensive, but we're being paid at a lower rate. That doesn't mean government come in and centralize more. It doesn't mean government print more. It doesn't mean government regulate more and destroy small businesses by raising the wage. And we'll get into that more in other reports. It just means that we need to, as individuals, be responsible and stop depending on the same individuals that are creating the problem in the first place, as if they are the solution to the cancer that they are creating. Anyway, I could go on about this all day, but you guys know what to do, right? You guys know what you need to do for the sake of your family. This is going to be an evolution, not a revolution. This is going to be you replacing the state, replacing the banking system by your own means, by your ability to protect your purchasing power. And it can come down to no one else but you. I'm just a person that's out here talking. You guys have to do the work yourselves. And if you don't, the longer you put it off, the worse it's going to be for you, and then you're going to end up in a lot of trouble. We do have a link with Mike Maloney's goldsilver.com in most of our videos in the description as well, which can help you. You can buy gold and silver there, and his books and all that kind of stuff. Great market historian. We do have other options. There's so much you can do to learn about this. I certainly suggest reading Rothbard, Hayek, Mises. There's so much evidence over time, over thousands of years of history, to prove that this type of centralization doesn't work and it only benefits those at the top. And then we have people on the left and the right promoting that same mechanism to solve the problem that it's created in the first place. Banks are doing fractional reserve lending, in some cases zero reserve policies, in places like Canada, for example, and they're extorting you. And they are pushing you into that debt servitude right where they want you, and it makes you a willing slave. They want to sacrifice you as a pawn for the king and the queen. And so many people are just blindly going along with it. And bringing up pensions earlier was a great example, considering the fact that people are dependent on their pensions instead of dependent on or independent in saving for their own futures. They're kind of just extorted and it's taken out of their paycheck, and they're expected to trust the banking system and government, etc., to be able to have money when they retire. So many lives are going to be ruined. There will be torches in the street, and it's so sad to watch as people just don't understand it, because money is considered boring. But it is one of the biggest mechanisms of control. And if you don't understand money, you don't understand those that are controlling you. You must have control over your money so you can have control over yourself, because if you don't have control over your money, the people who have control over the money have control over you, and therefore you are a slave, and you will be led to your inevitable slaughter. The sooner this collapses, the better. We need it to collapse. So in a lot of ways, it's like let it burn down, more quantitative easing and all that. But it hurts to watch this perpetuated so long. So it needs to happen the sooner the better. And we need to learn at a free market, free monetary level and go from there. But anyway, until next time, thanks for watching. This is Josh Sigurdson signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change. All right, guys. Sorry. Like I mentioned, I have a lung infection, so it's like trying to do these reports and not coughing is really difficult right now. Rainy Step sent another $2.79. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Again, those super chats help us a lot. If anyone's interested, those super chats help us get away from our little demonetization problem that has been getting more and more prevalent seemingly by the day. If you look at our Social Blade lately, look at the viewership coming in. Look at the rate of subscriptions coming in this month versus the rate of viewership. They're just not counting most of the views, and that means that we're making almost no money at all. And it makes it really hard for us to do all this stuff. It's getting ridiculous. But we're almost up 100% in subscribers this month from last month, but our viewership is down like dramatically from last month. And last month it was down dramatically from the month before and the month before that. I mean, since December, it's just been falling off a cliff. So anyway, we'll do the best we can. We will never give up. And for anyone that's interested, again, we do have a Bitcoin address, and it helps keep us alive. Cryptocurrency is one of the main things that is keeping us alive right now. Really, we are so unfortunately dependent on that. I mean, I'm doing my own things to stay alive, obviously, because as I speak about all the time, we need to be independent, and I am. But when I'm trying to do videos every single day, it's hard to completely focus on the things that I talk about for everyone else to focus on, because I'm busy making sure that I get these videos out every day, which is not easy, guys. I'm really happy to have Tim Pashot on board here at World Alternative Media. He's going to be doing a lot more videos soon. And yeah, and Dances says, why Bitcoin only? I have more, but the Manycam recorder I have here, which I use to do the live streams, only allows me to have 4 panels unless I pay like a ridiculous amount a month. And then I can add more panels and add more addresses, but I'm only allowed that right now to clip between 4. Basically, the 4 are the thumbnail, the screenshot, myself, and the Bitcoin, as you can see. Anyway, I got more videos to do here. I want to get into it. Again, for those just tuning in, we talk about things and we do the report live, and then I cut it out after. Don't go anywhere when I sign out of the report. I'm still here. And again, super chats go to the top. They are very, very useful to us, so we really appreciate anything you can do to help us. But there's some interesting stories coming out here, and I gotta pick which one, because I got like a ton of stories ready to go last night, and there's a lot to pick from. Let's see. That's too similar to the last one. Okay, I got one. All right. Hopefully my lungs will stay somewhat stable for this video. Anyway, I love the lung infections. Okay, 3, 2, 1. All right, so as this ntnews.com.au article says, Darwin to build future on smart technology based on cities in China and Taiwan. Of course, Darwin is an Australian place. This is another example of the surveillance state that we've been talking about for a long time here at WAM, and how it's unrolling in places like Australia. Australia is getting really, really bad. Let's get into this article here. It says Darwin Council will use Chinese-inspired surveillance technology to gather data on what people are doing on their phones and to put up virtual fences that will instantly trigger an alert if crossed. The concept for the smart technology comes from Shenzhen and has seen facial recognition surveillance to create a controversial social credit system where people earn or lose points based on the way they behave. Council's Innovation, Growth and Development Services General Manager Josh Sattler said the poles, fitted with speakers, cameras, and Wi-Fi, would allow Council to gain data on how many people walk on what footpaths and where they use certain websites and apps in the city. Oh, man. The artificial intelligence program will be watching. We won't be, he said. We'll be getting sent an alarm saying there's a person in that area that you've put a virtual fence around. Boom, an alert goes out to whatever authority, whether it's us or police, to say, look at camera 5. The CCTV component of the polls will be rolled out by Anzac Day, with the Smart City platform to be finished by the end of a financial year. Mr. Sattler said Darwin would be the first city in Australia to adopt the technology. And I quote, "At the moment, we're going off whoever screams the loudest, and sometimes that doesn't represent the full voice of the community," he said. It's about having the data to make the informed decisions, and we can get benefits for the rest of the community. Mr. Sattler said the next 6 months would see major changes to the technology, and local businesses could be the big winners. And I quote, "It will tell us where people are using Wi-Fi, what they're using Wi-Fi for, are they watching YouTube, etc. All these bits of information we can share with businesses. We can let businesses know, hey, 80% of people actually use Instagram within this area of the city between these hours, he said. What does that tell a business? Get on Instagram between these hours, put up new posts. You'll connect with a lot more people. Oh my God, the excuses. Charles Darwin University law lecturer Dr. Jenny Ng, or Nug, I don't know how to pronounce that last name, Gee or something, I don't know, said people can have a technology-friendly environment if they learn how to use it safely and have a better understanding of the different levels of privacy. And I quote, "It's only fair to tell the public if the public Wi-Fi, for example, is less secure than a personal Wi-Fi," she said. In such cases, if you want to have a highly secure network with high privacy features on the internet, you will have to use your personal Wi-Fi, which employs such features. Dr. NG said the purpose of the smart technology wasn't for penalizing pedestrians, as had been seen in Shenzhen. Right, I'm sure that's totally not the intention long term. And I quote, "Their intentions are different. They want to track your every move and come up with social credit systems," she said. "We don't have that system here. I don't think we're going to have it here anyway." Wasn't too sure there. Instead, CCTV could act as it did in other parts of society. And I quote, "We already use CCTV cameras in places such as banks. It's to create safety systems, and we don't object to it because we know it creates a safety system." It's all under the guise of convenience, folks. And I got to mention, the banks, first of all, I realize that banks can be considered somewhat public entities because of their fractional reserve lending, which individuals have to pay because they print money, and then individuals in their taxes pay off the interest on the debt. But with that said, a bank is still a different entity than a public street as far as security cameras go. I think that when we get to the point where we don't need tracking chips in our hands anymore, we are tracked everywhere we go with our face, that sets a very dangerous precedent for all of us. And we see this kind of stuff really, really getting capitalized in places like China. As it mentioned, China's social credit system, it's coming to the United States soon. It's coming to every one of us eventually, very soon. And they always use this idea of don't worry, we're not trying to track your every move. It's all about convenience. We want to help businesses. We want to help you find the products you want. You want those sunglasses? You want that dress? Now you can find it more easily. Yes, I'm sure that's why they do it. It totally doesn't just benefit them tracking your every move like they say they're not doing, and eventually moving towards the social credit scores. Because we've talked about this many times before, the whole rollout, going back to the 1970s, Henry Kissinger meeting with Mao Zedong in China, and then leading into the creation of the Trilateral Commission under Zbigniew Brzezinski and Jimmy Carter in the late 1970s with China, which was the whole idea was to unroll a technocratic superstate. They used China as a guinea pig state. It creates vast dependency in the state. People slowly fall down, and they slowly see an incremental frog boil into real over-the-top technocratic collectivism. And then they are tracked everywhere. And now if they go on an airplane, if they have a social credit score that's low, they get a blasting frequency in their ear to make them feel uncomfortable. Just how tyrannical Orwellian it's got. It's not 1984 anymore. It's 2084. It's a century above. And then on top of that, they have facial recognition goggles, the police in a lot of cases, where they could see people's face in China with their social credit score over their head. Do you honestly think they're not doing that in Australia? They're already doing that to an extent in Australia with their attempt to roll out facial recognition passports at airports and complete face scans. And it's getting to the point where people are just like, well, yeah, but it's convenient. It's like those Samsung smart TVs. It was like when Russia banned the smart TVs that were watching people. You know that old saying, in Soviet Russia, TV watches you. Well, no. Now it's Russia's the only one that's not allowing those TVs to watch you. Think about how far we've gotten, guys. It's gotten so crazy. And of course, the government only does what it benefits from personally. They're not doing this for your convenience. They have an ulterior motive, 100%, and stop. There's absolutely no getting around that. We were called crazy 5 years ago, 10 years ago, when we said China was unrolling the system. Now it's unrolled it, and we're all like, yeah, it's a weird Black Mirror episode. It's kind of strange, but what are you going to do? It's not here. Well, it will be soon. We're seeing that. We've seen that unroll in Britain as well. We are seeing that in Sweden. We are seeing that in Japan. We are seeing that all over the world, and if you don't think you're seeing it, I mean, in the United States and Canada, then I don't know what to tell you. Canada's a little bit worse than the United States right now as far as that goes, officially, on an official level anyway, because of the cameras everywhere, though parts of the United States are really bad, like Miami and parts of California. The toll roads in Miami are absolutely ridiculous, flashing you all the time and then sending you mail, but that's just a beginning factor that plays into what they're already doing in China, where if people jaywalk, they jaywalk across the street, they instantly get their face on a giant billboard screen, zoomed in on their face, and in moments they get an SMS message on their text, on their phone, with their fine for jaywalking. I mean, the fact that this has been allowed is just so incredibly signatory of how enslaved we've gotten, folks. This is dangerous, and let's not forget what the total agenda is long term. A global, technocratic superstate based on a cashless society that's completely centrally planned, utilizing legal tender laws, possibly the SDR if they actually get away with that, but nonetheless, a global system. China and India are set to surpass the United States empire in the coming years. They are unrolling the system as the U.S. world reserve currency collapses. And as they unroll this system, we will see a global currency where if your money's in the bank, it's not yours, it's the bank's, as it is. But if all your money is always going through the banking system and is never in your hand, it's always going through the banking system by the hand of the government, then it's never your money. You're owned by the banks, guys. It's never your money. Big difference between centrally planned, blockchain and centrally planned, cashless societies, and then decentralized, properly fundamentally useful cryptocurrency technologies that have caps on creation and also our privacy coins as well. Big difference. You must discern the two. But nonetheless, this is a huge agenda being played out right in front of our eyes, and we need to protect ourselves, and I think we will win. I think we will see an evolution, not a revolution, but an evolution override this, because they are desperate. The interest rates are going to go negative in the United States. We've seen that in Japan. We've seen that in Sweden. We know what they do next. They try to unroll their cashless system. Sweden is I think only 1% of their transactions are done in cash now. And already it's a mostly cashless system in the United States and Canada as well, but they want to run or get to the point where everything's cashless. And if we allow this slippery slope to occur, then we are willing slaves. We are going to walk to the slaughter with a smile on our face because we think all is fine because we got grass to chew on around us in our field, in our pasture, but there's still a fence and we will eventually get led off to the slaughter. The government does not have any good intentions in mind, period. They want you to be enslaved. They want to control you. They want to lead you, and they want you to be dependent and in debt and enslaved completely. Will you allow them to take that control over you, or will you do something about it? Australia is getting so over the top, and on top of that, with their monetary problems, with their housing bubble problems, the crash of their housing market, with their central bank, how far will they go? Banning more people from entering their country? The giant land mass that's so communistic because government control of land insinuates that government owns that land, which means they own all which is in that land, which means it's a giant prison, which is interesting considering the history of Australia and the fact that it was used as a prison island. It's a far bigger prison island today, and people don't even realize it. They've fallen right into the trap. They've fallen right into the paradigm. And again, it's an incremental frog boil to true, complete collectivism, and they're going to be led to the slaughter. Break free, folks. Be independent. Be responsible. Don't allow yourself to be used to sacrifice as a pawn for the king and the queen. We don't know how many more times we can say this, and you are watching this play out, and what are you doing about it? Oh, well, it can't get much worse. Well, we got to do what we can. Oh, I have a job. I don't have time. No, it comes down to you at a personal level and how you preserve your wealth and how you protect yourself and how you protect your family. No one's going to do anything for you. And if you don't do anything to protect yourself, you might as well smoke 5 packs a day of cigarettes, eat only junk food, and, wander off to your death. It doesn't make any sense to not have some form of idea of preserving your own life. That's one of the most basic parts of individual liberty, which is based on the fundamentals of responsibility itself. So what are you going to do, folks? That's up to you. Until next time, this is Josh Sigurdson signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change. All right. There's another one down. Um, oh man, getting a little tired. Okay. Again, super chats go to the top. Rika, the hopeful volunteer, says, "Hey, now leave my vices out of this." Yeah, I quit smoking in November, and I've been feeling amazing until I decided to get a lung infection just recently, and now I feel like I'm smoking again. Like, it's so bad. I finished my antibiotics yesterday, and they didn't do anything, and I gotta go to Africa right away. I don't know what to do. I'm kind of screwed. I have oh man. Barnaby, I am smoking and eating junk food till I die. Yeah, that's your responsibility. But I mean, there's a level, right? You're not smoking 5 packs a day. You're not eating only McDonald's all day. I mean, because then you would that's a depressing thing. You must know in your mind, I'm going to die a very young life, a very young person. And obviously, you want to preserve that at some point. Even the most unhealthy people, in most cases, aren't going to do that, So there is a level of self-preservation and that factors in there. Anyway, Marcel Invisible says people are too dumb to understand the scale of this stuff. Yeah, I know, but it's not even about convincing everyone. It's just about convincing a few people. If a small amount of people start disobeying and rejecting, the whole system collapses, and it won't take much. The government's very inefficient and isn't actually standing on a whole lot of ground right now. They don't have a lot of power. It's just people give them power and they believe in that power, and they're cheerleaders for that power, and it gives a false idea or pretense for continued restriction of free will. Let's see. Rika the hopeful voluntarist, quitting smoking is hard. Congratulations. Yeah, well, when they tell me I got early signs of COPD, it's probably the best thing to do. I want to be around for a long time to provide information for people and do things. I love life way too much. Barnaby says, 10 a day, and I take vitamins, but I have no life. 10 packs a day? Yeah, right. That's like Stevie Nicks. I remember finding out years ago, Stevie Nicks in the 70s used to smoke like 5 packs a day in a hotel room and just write music. I'm like, how does she have a voice? I used to be a singer. You cannot smoke 5 packs a day and sing. You'd be coughing and hacking. Like, no amount of good DNA helps that come to fruition. Sailing Bangarang says, can you please give us an update on the trip to Atlantis? I don't have anything to update yet other than I do have people, and I got a very scientific study on the horizon here. And when I go to Africa, we are going to have the most detailed analysis of the reshot structure ever in history, and you won't be disappointed, assuming that all goes as planned and we don't have any missteps along the way. Because you never know what's going to happen. In a place like Mauritania, it's unpredictable. But we should be good. As long as my lung infection goes away, we should be good. But we do have certain technology that we will be utilizing out there. Sailing Bangarang says, there are army maps on the internet. They mapped it a long time ago. Yeah, there's mapping of the place, but has anyone ever looked in the ground? Has anyone done any kind of radar of any kind? Has anyone mapped out the geology properly? Because most of the studies have come from the sky, from people looking at Google Earth and stuff. And it's anyway. Barnaby says it's not a lung infection; it's healing from smoking. No, I get that, but I mean, I've quit many times before. I've been quit since November, and I felt great the whole time, and then I just kept getting sick, and then I got a flu, and then the flu turned into a lung infection. I'm prone to lung infections. I always have been. I have asthma and all that. John Andrews, I'm so excited to get the report on the structure. It's going to be awesome no matter the results. I hope so. I really don't want to disappoint. That's one thing that really freaks me out, is disappointing people. I want to bring something revolutionary to the table here that no one's done before. That's my whole thing. Like, I'd rather go to Egypt, I'd rather go to Peru and look at already known places, but no one goes to the site, so someone has to, right? As for the Notre Dame Cathedral, I did my first report of the show was on the Notre Dame Cathedral. I'm not pointing fingers because I don't know, and it's all speculation. And it could just be a construction problem. There's a major fire in the 1960s at the St. Boniface Cathedral in Winnipeg, Canada, where my grandparents got married. And it's a beautiful, beautiful place, and it basically exploded because a guy dropped a cigarette, on a bunch of wet paint, and the paint caught fire and blew up. So we just don't know yet. It's really hard to say. It's really sad to watch, though. David Hanna says, "What's up, Josh? You're doing amazing, brother. Thank you. Appreciate it. Appreciate all the support, guys. It really means a lot." And again, I'm gonna, as I always try to do, no pressure on anyone, obviously, but here's my Bitcoin address for anyone that wants a tip. It helps a lot. We are dealing with heavy duty shadow banning right now, and for those that want subscriber only content, not safe for YouTube, we have a subscribe star page also linked below, and that helps a lot as well. So if anyone's interested, that is an option for everyone, and I really appreciate everything. Let's see, we do have a part-time friend says, "Hello from Finland." Hello, good to see you. Lots of people in Finland watch our videos, and always good to see. We need to do some reports on Finland, I think. I'll talk to John Snyson about that. Rainy Steps said, another 279, thank you. When do you think crypto will turn around? It's hard to say. I was talking with Paul Poi, the creator of Edge Wallet, my favorite wallet, by the way, and he was talking about what do you define as a bull market? Would you define the bull market after the bear market between 2015 and 2017? Would you define it as when it bounced up to $500 and then $800 and $900, or would you define it as hitting $1,500 again? Would we define a bull market by hitting $12,000 per Bitcoin, or would we do it once it hits its previous highs and then climbs from there? It's hard. It's subjective. It's a subjective question, and there's no way to really detail that properly other than to say that, I mean, it's an infant market, and it's going to, we are going to see massive gains in cryptocurrency in the future without a doubt in the world. Bitcoin Cash has done good today. Not a huge fan of Bitcoin Cash, but it's done well today. I mean, I don't know. We see a lot of institutional investors getting in. I'm not a big fan of it, but it also helps use case. And either way, we will replace them eventually. So maybe it's a necessary evil. I don't know. But we will see the market pick up in the near future. And I have no doubt about that. Lotta Escoto says, greetings from Sweden. Greetings to you as well. How are you doing with that cashless system out there? We were just talking about that. Anyway, let's see. Am I going to do another story here? I don't know. Maybe I should. What do I got here? I'm so tired. I've done more stories than usual, I think, today. Some of these are going to... most of these stories are going to include a lot of passion and energy. And we're over an hour in, and I have a lung infection and tired. I only woke up a couple hours ago, too. All my excuses and whining. What am I going to do? Bradley McDonald, Notre Dame. Yeah, I covered Notre Dame at the beginning of this show. And the weird 9/11 algorithm that kicked in on YouTube and glitched out. Barnaby, cash is annoying, though. Yeah, well, fiat is annoying in general, but cash is useful. I like to diversify. Cash... no worries, Bradley, no worries. But young Pee Wee Herman, thank you, unknown. That's great. No, I think cash can be annoying, but I like to diversify between cash, crypto. It's good to make digital payments, but what kind of digital payments? Is it going to be a government restrictive system based on legal tender laws, or is it going to be decentralized? And, based on individual demand without legal tender laws, which means buy fiat. Fiat literally means buy fiat by law, by force. Good thing to keep in mind. Keisha Rhinestone says, I just threw my back out from coughing. Oh, man. I'm a big fan of My Pillow. You've seen those commercials, My Pillow, Mike Lindell, My Pillow. He's hugging a pillow and super happy about it. I got a My Pillow about a year ago, and I've loved it. I made the mistake of putting it on top of another pillow last night, and I totally threw out my neck myself. Woke up with a huge headache. Always fun. Anyway, I am just rambling on about stuff no one cares about, so let's see. What do I got here? I should just force myself to do another video. Screw it. Once I get into it, there's no going back, so might as well just make myself do it. I've often told myself, or told people this, I'm kind of Tucker Carlson does this. He mentioned on a Gavin McInnes podcast once that he's a really lazy person, as am I, but he forces himself, he makes schedules so that he's forced to do things So despite how lazy he is, he's just always busy and productive, and that's basically my life. Okay. Part-time friend, never go double pillow. I agree. Yeah, I know. I never do that. I just, my girlfriend, I always watch when she sleeps. It makes no sense. Her neck is like cranked up, but she's like, I'm comfortable. But she's got like 3 pillows underneath her. It's like, I don't even get it. Like, that looks so uncomfortable. And people who lay face down, like, I don't understand how you could be suffocated in a pillow and be comfortable. Anyway, claustrophobia, I don't know. But we'll get into something important here. Let me just load up a story. Deutsche Bank. No. Ugandan children getting robbed. It sounds depressing. Let's see. Higher minimum wage. Okay, yeah, we'll do this. Whatever. Let's go for this. Let's do this. Hopefully my lung infection doesn't get in the way. I know I've complained about it a million times, but it's really getting annoying. Like, I coughed to the point of being blue in the face, and I was passing out this morning. And it's so uncomfortable. Like, oh my God, it's just been going on for weeks. So hopefully, oh man, I need it to go away. It's driving me crazy, and it's making my mind kind of loopy. Anyway, let's get into the story. Don't go anywhere once I sign out. Super chats go to the top. Thank you, everyone. Anyway, let's get into this. As this article out of CNBC says, higher minimum wage means restaurants raise prices and fewer employee hours, survey finds. You think this is kind of something that we have been reporting on for years, and it's basic economics. You want to see why things cost so much money, why prices are so high? It's because of the price of living inflating. It's because of inflation. It's because if you look at 1980s shadow stats and look at the true value or the true rate of inflation at the central banking level, it is over 11%. 11%. So everything's rising in price dramatically because of the printing of currency out of thin air. And I will go into that in a moment. But let's get into this article anyway and see what it says. It says, let's see, as it goes into, for restaurants, minimum wage hikes usually mean higher menu prices and fewer employee hours, according to a survey released Wednesday. And as it continues, Harry, a workplace management software company that works with restaurants, surveyed 173 restaurants between February 28th and March 15th about the impact of raising the minimum wage. The respondents represent more than 4,000 restaurants locations ranging from fine dining to fast food. Fast food workers across the country have been driving the fight for a higher minimum wage to keep up the cost of living. States across the U.S. have been raising their minimum wages. 6 states, including Illinois and Maryland, have approved laws phasing in a $15 an hour minimum wage. Washington, D.C. currently has a highest minimum, $13.25, and that is set to rise to $14 an hour on July 1st and to $15 on July 1st, 2020. However, the federal minimum wage has remained stagnant since 2009. House Democrats have been pushing a bill to raise the federal minimum wage to $15 per hour from $7.25, but it's unlikely to pass. Proponents of increasing the minimum wage argue that it can stimulate the economy, reduce income inequality, and decrease taxpayer spending on government assistance programs. Opponents like National Restaurant Association say that it eliminates jobs and hurts small businesses, but not all restaurants oppose these efforts. Notably, McDonald's, I'm going to get into this in a second, McDonald's told the NRA last month, NRA is the National Restaurant Association, told the NRA last month that it would no longer join in its lobbying efforts against minimum wage hikes. Of course, it's a little bit of virtue signaling. The restaurant industry employs a large portion of minimum wage workers. It's no surprise that 83% of survey respondents affected by minimum wage hikes reported that their labor costs rose at least 3%. At least. 23% responded to minimum wage hikes by not making any changes to their business. But the majority did. The most popular response from 71% of operators was to raise menu prices. Nearly half reworked their food and beverage options to reduce costs. Some operators responded to the minimum wage increases by cutting costs, with 64% saying they reduced employee hours and 43% saying they eliminated jobs. Outside the restaurant industry, companies like Bank of America and Target have been hiking internal minimum wages to attract and retain employees in a tight labor market. Similarly, 87% of survey respondents affected by minimum wage hikes said they increased wages for workers who made more than the minimum wage. And I should also mention the banks print money out of thin air. So, and I mean, they're also laying off a bunch of people, so there's that too. But, I mean, does anyone not realize that when you raise minimum wages, what happens is the price of everything goes up? I mean, if you have to spend more money on labor, you have to raise the prices on the product which you're producing, which also costs a lot of money. People don't seem to realize that you'll still, like, despite the number on your money going up, the purchasing power will remain the same, if not get worse. And over the last century, especially, as inflation skyrockets over time, you see a loaf of bread go up in price. You see everything go up in price. And you think that the way to solve this problem is more centralization. The way to solve this problem is more printing of currency, of more regulations. Look at McDonald's, for example. They can afford to raise their minimum wage. They can automate. They can put in like the machines to flip burgers and to take your order and all that, because they're not the most useful job. As bad as that sounds, it's the truth. It's not the most useful job. But of course Walmart likes this. Of course McDonald's likes this. Of course all these major businesses like it, because it helps them monopolize, duopolize, triopolize against the small business competition. Why do you think you go into a McDonald's and you get a burger for $2, then you go into a family restaurant and you get a burger for $8 to $14? Why do you think that is? Because their costs are going to be higher to compete against all these companies. They have to do a better job, first of all, than crappy McDonald's. But on top of that, they are in a much more tighter position paying their employees and producing and competing on the market, while McDonald's is a multinational conglomerate. And we see in places like Seattle what happens. They raise the minimum wage and the businesses move out of town. Of course they're going to do what's best for their bottom line, and why wouldn't they? It means more money for the employees. Look, when you free the markets, when you allow real, true competition to happen, that means getting rid of those taxes that are restricting the competition, which, by the way, the taxes prop up the major corporations that, the government claims that they're trying to go after. They're the ones that are creating in the first place. When they raise the taxes and they raise the regulations, the big businesses can afford to deal with it. They just downsize a little bit and switch their technology up a little bit and move to different ways of producing, while the small businesses cannot compete against that. Think of all the businesses that are going under. There's so many businesses going under, and you go to so many cities around the United States and Canada where businesses are going under, and it's so sad to watch. And people are moving to different states where it's less restrictive. And if you want a higher wage that doesn't come from government, that comes from getting rid of the central banking system, extorting, destroying, indebting everyone and propping up the price of living. People don't seem to realize that the price of living is increasing all the time. And it just gets to the point where if you have a true free market competitive system, businesses are forced to compete on the market. They have to produce the best product for the best price. They do anything stupid, they go under, unlike McDonald's and Walmart and all those, which are so propped up that they are almost too big to fail. But small businesses, they're all competing against each other. Some get bigger than others because they have a good product. That means they can produce more. That means they can employ more. That means they can pay their employees more for a better work, better job. They can automate because automation actually creates more jobs long term statistically. So that's another thing that people don't understand. But to a certain level, because when you only have big corporations being able to afford that technology, then obviously you've got a bit of a slippery slope there where the big corporations win, the small corporations or businesses are pushed under the bus. But you produce more, you get more competitive, you do something stupid, people move to a different company. It's simple, it's basic economics. And this need by people who don't understand, they think emotionally rather than logically, to constantly prop up this system to best support them, they're creating the problem in the first place and then using the problem as a solution, which is so so paradoxical. It's so Hegelian. It's a Hegelian dialectic of problem, reaction, solution, repeat for eternity, and it never ever ends. So when we are seeing all these businesses go under, what does that also do at the same time? It benefits a government. Government doesn't do anything they don't personally benefit from. So when you have all these people going on welfare, when you have all these people getting laid off, when you have all these businesses going under, props up major corporations, which then depend on the government, which allow them to become kind of government monopolies, pushing all these other businesses out, less competition, less individual demand, less freedom, less people deciding on their own on what they want, because the free market is the antithesis to the government. And so that restricts the government. Government does not want capitalism. Government does not want free markets. Government does not want free competition. Government wants control. So when all these people are losing their jobs, that means they are dependent. They are in debt. They are begging for help. They are scared. They are worried that they cannot provide for their family, provide food on the table, their unhealthy food that they can afford only because the only food that they're able to afford is the unhealthy food made by the major corporations that have been propped up by this monopolization, regulation, taxation, legislation. So what happens then? If you're shoved down a bottomless pit of debt, you are forced to ask for a ladder up from the government and the banking system, pushing you into perfect servitude. Everyone's eating unhealthy at the same time, so then they're unhealthy, they die younger, they need more medical care and that kind of stuff, and it just props up this system. It perpetuates a system. It creates a problem, and then they come in as a savior to save the day by creating more problems. This will never end as long as we perpetuate this and think that we can solve cancer or cure cancer with cancer or put out fire with kerosene. This is a never-ending problem. The only way to abolish this problem is to abolish the central banking system, to abolish the use of force against free individuals, and instead look towards a voluntary free market private contract system of governance where no one is enforcing their will on other people, where people are free to make their own decisions in life. They're responsible, and responsibility being the basis of freedom itself, where they can make their own decisions, chip money towards things. Their buying power would be greater because they won't be getting extorted, and the price of living wouldn't be inflating dramatically. There'd be competitive currencies. People can decide which currencies to use. There'd be a model of the most popular currencies which most places would accept, just like most places will accept Visa and MasterCard and many American Express, etc., and now PayPal and Apple. I mean, businesses will decide what's best for them, and the consumer will as well, and that will lead to a more prosperous world where people have it their way more. People have more money in their pockets. People have more purchasing power. There's more individual demand. There's cheaper products, better products, more competition, more productivity, more markets opening up, allowing new ideas to come out like the internet or the blockchain, new things that we haven't even heard of yet, new markets opening up, and bringing in a lot of prosperity for the individual, and creating new technologies under convenience, because the government uses convenience to install tyranny on the populace and free things, and then we need to do the same thing in retaliation, really. I mean, it's an evolution, not revolution. What can we evolve in? What can we create? What can we compete against the inefficient government with? Because the government is very incompetent and inefficient, and they're only a shadow on the wall, which we give respect to by believing in them like a bunch of cheerleaders, glassy-eyed in the religion of statism and collectivism. We must break the incremental frog boil towards complete collectivism, and we must innovate. We must use convenience for our own good rather than fall for the convenience of the state under the guise of convenience, as we fall into the trap of being used as pawns to sacrifice for the king and the queen. We will prevail. We will survive, but it comes down to you as an individual and not believing in the use of force against free individuals, believing that 51% can control the 49%, and with that, of the 51%, only having about 0.01% of those people representing that system, and therefore no real free will, collectivism, you saying your ideas are so good they should be enforced on other people, and at the same time destroying the market, propping up the system, and creating a massive worldwide complex of destruction, dependency, and debt. We need to break free from that. We need to end the Fed. We need to end this coercive thing that we call statism and collectivism. And we need to talk for ourselves. We need to be responsible and independent, self-sustainable, free human beings. We need to protect our purchasing power. We need to create. We need to be creative. We need to stop looking for other people to help us from things that they created in the first place. So anyway, thanks for watching, everyone. Until next time, this is Josh Sigurdson signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth. Be the change. All right. All right, that was a little energetic. Anyway, I'm glad to see so many people tune in today. We have lost a large part of our audience here since I did that last video. I don't know what happened. Did the stream go down or something? I don't know. I'm just noticing we dropped like almost in half in viewership. Anyway. Mellow Stacker, need to go back to gold and silver. Well, yeah, gold, silver. We need diversification. As Lior Gantz recently mentioned on WAM, it's just as bad to hold only gold and silver as it is to not hold any gold and silver at all. We need the diversification. But gold and silver, historically, of course, is great wealth insurance, and it provides us with a great amount of stability and insurance for the future in the case of the inevitable dollar crashes that come our way. But anyway, I'm really stuffed up and feeling terrible. So I'm probably going to take off soon. But yeah, if anyone can tell me, did the stream go down at any point during that report? Because I know the stream health says medium right now instead of good, and we lost half of the viewership during that video. You can let me know if that would be good. Okay, he says no. Okay, thank you, Marcel. I appreciate letting me know. Anyway, I've been trying like a complete all-natural organic diet lately, and look what I found. I know you're gonna say, eugenics, all that kind of stuff. I found organic Gatorade, and looking at the ingredients, legitimately, USDA organic ingredients are water, organic sugar, citric acid, organic natural flavors, sea salt, sodium citrate, potassium chloride. Like I'm just surprised that they're actually making this, because I'm really big on ensuring that I have electrolytes in my system, and obviously I've been just avoiding. I haven't even been eating meat lately. I'm just trying something. I'm not like quitting meat, but I'm attempting to just try more vegan diet lately, and just see what happens. Because I've heard some good results, and then I've heard some bad results, and I used to be a vegetarian, and I want to see what works best. But driverless P says organic doesn't mean better. I know, but it also means the ingredients I just listed. I mean, I'm not finding any chemical in this. There might be fluoride, but I don't see any fluoride. It doesn't show. So I don't know. My point is, I think just your health of your own body, your ability to prolong your life is so important. And there's so many ways that people can prolong their life. I've just been inspired lately by G. Edward Griffin, which we're kind of doing a somewhat weekly show with, on how he's 88 years old and he's in better shape than most 45-year-olds I know. And he's like climbing. I went to his house recently, and he's like climbing stairs into this attic area where his library is, and the stairs are so steep, and he's just like running up them. I've seen him putting up like big signs at events, climbing chairs, putting the tables together and setting up chairs and tables at events, running all over the place. I've seen him hiking in the mountains in Paso Robles. Like, it's just so crazy. He's 88 years old. It's like, how does anyone do that? I can barely do that right now, and I'm turning 25 soon. So it's quite inspiring, and it's made me want to kind of rethink what I'm doing lately, because I would love to live that old without problems. That is, obviously, I don't want to be that old and have complete horrible pain all the time. But you know what I mean. Anyway, I managed to get 5 reports done in this show, and that's not too bad. I do need to go though, because I'm just not good right now. I've been taking these immunity shots that are absolutely horrible. Turmeric, cayenne pepper, echinacea in it, all that kind of stuff. Just the most horrible tasting stuff that makes your throat burn for like 3 hours after. But I recommend it. I feel kind of better after it for a little while. Maybe it's a placebo, I don't know. And then just sticking to, I've been going to vegan places lately and just trying immunity stuff, because you got to remember, I'm going to Africa soon, and I need to be healthy there. Like, I cannot risk getting a disease there. I'm doing everything I can to avoid that. Mr. Valgard says just 1,000 milligrams of vitamin C, all what immune system needs. Well, it could use other things. Other nutrition is good. Vitamin B is good. Vitamin D is good, which I get enough of in sunny Las Vegas. But I do take a ridiculous amount of vitamin C every day. But it doesn't always help because I got sick 5 times in 3 months. So it didn't really make the biggest difference for me in that case. But I think my immune system is a little messed up from quitting smoking back in November. So I don't know. Sasha B says take long naps. Actually, I feel terrible when I take long naps. I whenever I take long naps, I just feel worn out and terrible. I know it works for a lot of people. It just doesn't work for me. I drink lots of water as well, filtered and everything. Lotta Escoto says Mike vinegar. I do take a lot of apple cider vinegar, honey, manuka honey, echinacea. What's that stuff called? I can't think of it. It's like this weed, kind of. It's like a astragalus or astragalus or something. I take a lot of that. Hokey Dokey says drink beer. Beer destroys my immune system personally. I don't like beer, honestly. I know that's like blasphemy, but I'm not a big fan of beer. I like some IPAs and stuff, but I don't really go for it a lot. My alcoholic drink of choice is rum and Coke. And as bad as that is, I don't drink pop ever, ever, ever. But if I'm going to have a drink, I settle with rum and Coke because it's a safe drink because I know that I'm going to be fine. I'm not going to do anything stupid. I'm not going to get drunk, and I'm not going to fall over. That comes from many years of practice. Let's see. Tom Keys, don't fly if you don't want to be sick. I know, but I need to fly. I don't want to be sick either. It's kind of a not so great situation. You know what I noticed, like during the 2016 election, it was this thing, like Hillary Clinton was like dying from a lung infection, basically what I have. I think I must have like shaken someone's hand who shook Hillary's hand because my cough has been terrible. But it was weird because Donald Trump went the entire election without getting sick, he said, like 2-year campaign or a 1.5 campaign, didn't get sick. And well, I guess he was on a private jet, but he's around so many people shaking so many hands. How do you get that immune system in like when you're 70? I just don't get it. Some of these people are just incredible. Doug209 says fresh fruit and veg. Yep, lots of fruit and vegetables every single day. Jason Burrows, look into monatomic gold and Ormus. All awesome electrolytes. Yeah, I depend on electrolytes. Electrolytes are my lifesaver. They've saved me a lot. Lotta Escoto says vitamin D if you don't get outside much in winter. Yeah, but I'm in Las Vegas in the winter most of the time. So I do get a lot of sun, luckily. I'm very, very happy to be in this part of the country at this time of year. And honestly, like Las Vegas lately has been amazing. Today it's a little cloudy, but usually it's almost always sunny. And it's so beautiful. I was just thinking last night when I'm driving around, I'm so lucky to be here. It's such a nice place. It's not the Strip. You get into the Summerlin or Henderson areas of Las Vegas. It's so beautiful. Mountains, and there's everything you can imagine to do. There's so many restaurants, so much food. There's so much places to see. The scenery is amazing. Canyons and valleys, and it's a beautiful place. Jethro Harmon says, hello from Australia. Hello to you. You just missed my report on Australia surveillance state. Stay tuned. I'll be putting up that report independently shortly. Hopefully. Andre VR, you have good hair. Stop combing it like you're in church. Trust me, you do not want to see my hair. I'm not even going to touch it. You don't want to see my hair when it's not combed, but I am receding a bit, which is kind of concerning me because of my combing. But it's just over time I learned to be more classy, quote unquote, with my hair because people just take me more seriously. I started out this channel 6 years ago now. 6 years ago. My hair was just messy. It was longer. I'm wearing ratty clothes. I just didn't care, and people weren't taking me seriously. And I want to get my message out, so I need to focus on just making myself look somewhat professional. You got to remember, I'm 24, turning 25 right away. People don't take me seriously because I'm young, right? And I need to make up for that one way or another. It's just the way it is, just to get my message out. Jethro Harmon says, yes, please. I love your work. You're a legend, Josh. I appreciate that. I don't know how to take that. I never know how to take that. I bump into people all the time that they watch my stuff. Like, I'll be walking on a Walmart. I was looking for ammo recently at a Walmart, and this guy introduces himself and says thank you for your work and all that, and it's just such a weird feeling because I just started out talking about this stuff and it just turns into that. I was at a TSA line not that long ago, about to get molested, and some guy behind me in line in Fort Myers, Florida, is like, "Come on, Josh, we don't have all day," and I'm like, "Who are you? How do you know my name?" He's like, "Doesn't everyone?" I'm like, okay. I opt out of like the screening. I go through that whole rape thing, and then the guy comes out. He and his whole family opted out. I'm like, "Oh, that's cool." And he's like, "Yeah, I watched all your videos." I'm like, "That's awesome," And actually, one of the weirdest was a TSA agent himself once came out to me while he was patting me down and grabbing me and groping me. He's like, "Yeah, I watch your videos, man. Aren't you that guy on YouTube that does like WAM?" I'm like, "Yeah, why haven't you quit your job yet if you watch me? I don't get it." Anyway, it's a strange world to live in. I never expected any of this to come to fruition. I just love talking about it. I've been involved in like the Ron Paul movement going back to 2006. And it's just exploded. And now I'm talking with Ron Paul. I get to hang out with him. I get to meet the most amazing people in the world. And then most of all, the most important part, I get to connect with the viewers. And that is just, there's not enough money in the world to pay me off to stop being able to have that connection. It means the world to me. So I really appreciate everyone that watches. Anyway, I'm going to get going right now. We're an hour and a half in, and I got a meeting to go to again real soon. I got a video going up with a guy in the gold industry, and he's also a geologist. Tomorrow, stay tuned for that 4K video. Really interesting stuff. Julius says Sigurdson is an Icelandic last name. Are you of Icelandic ethnicity? Technically, my grandfather, his last name was Paulson with two S's, Palsson, I think. He was adopted by the Sigurdson family, so it's technically not my lineage, but the Paulson family was also Icelandic, so it goes back to Iceland anyway. I'm Heinz 57. I'm Icelandic, French, Native American, Spanish, and Dutch. So I'm a mix of multiple things. Anyway, the French comes from the Dutch heritage because it's the dark-haired Dutch heritage because the Dutch were colonized heavily by Spanish at one point in history, and that's where the dark-haired Dutch come from, but I still have the blue eyes, as you see. Big nose comes from France. Sorry to everyone in France that just got offended collectively. And then Icelandic, you can kind of see that as well, and Native American is a big part of me as well, and I think Cree and Ojibwe and all that. Anyway, Heinz 57 mixture. So anyway, so I appreciate everyone tuning in. Means a lot to me. I need to go and take care of this cough, and I'm really stuffed up, so I don't really want to be on camera too much longer here. So stay tuned for more. We got lots more coming your way. I'm looking really forward to all of it. I appreciate everyone tuning in. For everyone that is interested, we do have a subscribe star page, which allows you to do or watch our subscriber-only content, which makes a huge difference. It's a big part of keeping us alive as we are heavily shadow banned. We will do not safe for YouTube content there as well. And for those interested in any tips as well, we can really appreciate any tips you can do in Bitcoin. We have our Bitcoin address here. We got more addresses in the description below the video as well to help us stay alive. It's harder than ever on YouTube these days, and we depend on the viewer more than anything in the world. You make it all possible, and you make it possible for us to get the information out to new ears all the time that aren't aware of the ideas of freedom and liberty and sound money and, economics, basic economics, free markets, ancient lost civilizations in many cases as well, and all of that kind of stuff. So, again, really appreciate it. You guys make it possible. Until next time, thanks for watching. This is Josh Sigurdson signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change.